Tonight, the struggle to survive in Gaza, with Israel on the brink of taking on Hamas. The pleas to bring aid in. A plan to get people out.
Rafah will be open.
Israel's military prepared to strike by land, sea, and air.
They will receive their day of justice.
And the major show of force by the Americans. The flight to safety.
Yulee will have repatriated over 1,000 Canadians from Israel.
One family's story escaping two war-torn countries.
No one wants their kids to go twice through war.
Plus an injection of options for nurses.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
The cost of reviving a healthcare system on life support.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are on the move, desperately making their way to southern Gaza. 1 million are displaced, seeking shelter, running out of food and water. The chaotic scene with people fleeing. An urgent call to let humanitarian aid in, but a glimmer of hope, a deal to open the border with Egypt at 2 a.m. Eastern. Overnight, images of a military strike released by Israel, claiming to kill the commander behind a kibbutz massacre. As a ground operation to wipe out Hamas appears close.
And we will strike Hamas from the top, through its institutions, all the way down to the individuals that conducted the butchery of our babies.
And today we also learned a fifth Canadian has died. The Consul General of Israel in Toronto confirms 21-year-old Netta Epstein was hiding in a safe room with his girlfriend when a grenade was thrown at the couple during the terror attack by Hamas. He shielded her with his body. She survived. CTV's Heather Wright begins our coverage from the war zone.
Hell on earth is how many are describing life in Gaza. Tomorrow, though, there could be a way out for some. The Rafah border crossing into Egypt will open for foreign nationals at 9 a.m. local time, an announcement made by Palestinian officials shortly after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with the Egyptian president. It comes after previous attempts to open the crossing were called off. As part of the deal to get foreigners out, including 300 Canadians, aid will be allowed in to the Gaza Strip.
Once they are through the crossing, Canadians will be transported to Cairo and can return to Canada.
Millions of Palestinians, though, have no choice but to stay in Gaza, where the situation gets worse by the day. While water to some parts of the south has been turned back on, electricity is still out and supplies are running dangerously low. At night, I sleep while hugging my father, Sahar Dalul says. Where should we go? There is no place to hide. As Israel's military gets set for a ground invasion, there are renewed orders for those in northern Gaza to go south. Israel has hit more than 250 targets inside Gaza in the last day alone, taking out a Hamas commander they say was in charge of a kibbutz massacre. In 9 days, this war has surpassed the death toll of the 2014 conflict, which lasted 51. More than 2,600 Palestinians are dead. In Israel, more than 1,300 people have been confirmed dead so far following last Saturday's horrific massacre, a number that now includes 5 Canadians. 3 are still missing. Israel's defense ministry said today this war will be mighty. It will also be bloody. Hamas releasing this video showing militants training in trenches. Hospitals in the north have also been told to evacuate, which the United Nations says is a death sentence for the sick and injured. There are growing concerns this war will expand into a broader regional conflict. Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group in southern Lebanon, and Israel exchanged fire today. Israel warning Hezbollah's leaders to watch closely what is happening to Hamas before getting involved in this conflict.
There is rising violence in the occupied West Bank, where many businesses and schools remain closed. Meanwhile, Israel's expanded cabinet met for the first time today. Political rivals trying to show unity as this country prepares for war. Sandy.
Thank you, Heather, in Tel Aviv. Now, more than 1,000 Canadians and their families have left Israel aboard armed forces military aircraft. And as Heather said, some 300 are still stranded in Gaza. Global Affairs Today encouraged Canadians in Lebanon to make their way home, as hundreds in the West Bank are also looking for a way out to Jordan. CTV's Adrian Gobriel now on Canada's ongoing evacuation plans.
Incoming rockets shot out of the night sky over Tel Aviv. As inside Ben Gurion Airport, passengers desperate to board a flight orchestrated by the Canadian military are overcome with emotion.
It's painful. My husband is staying, but I need to do it for them.
Cheryl Slater is taking her 6- and 2.5-year-old to Toronto. But that's not all.
I need to because I'm also...
You're also pregnant.
Yeah.
Her husband is staying behind to fight.
Tough to leave your husband behind.
My husband, my friends, my nation is here.
As of tonight, more than 1,000 passengers have been airlifted out of Israel. There's believed to be at least 800 more who are still waiting for a flight to Canada.
We're working through the list as fast as we can to get people assigned to flights. As I said, 2 more today, 2 more tomorrow, and then after that we'll assess the need. We'll keep rolling as long as the demand is there.
She was born in Canada, in Toronto, 2 months ago.
In line for the military flight, a family caught in the crossfire of 2 wars, spanning 2 continents in less than 2 years.
Where are you from in Ukraine?
In Dnipro.
Dnipro.
Yulia Tolipina, her husband Zlanta, and their daughters fled their home in Ukraine 1 month after the Russian invasion. They received an emergency visa to Canada, and they just moved from Toronto to Jerusalem so Tolipina could pursue her PhD. Last Saturday morning, they heard a familiar sound.
When they heard the sirens again, it was very hard, especially for the older kids, because they remembered everything what they went through in Ukraine.
Does it feel like you've been struggling to find a place in this world?
Yeah, it's not easy to leave the country for the second time. No one wants their kids to go twice, through war and escape twice from the war.
With a baby sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms, their bags packed, on the move again. In war, there is little rest for those who find it at their doorstep.
The family tell me they simply want what so many of us take for granted, to be able to raise their children without the constant threat of war. Sandy?
Adrian Gobriel in Jaffa tonight. Digging a little deeper into the number of Canadians anxious to flee Gaza. The numbers have doubled in the last 24 hours. And as we said, there's also that threat from Lebanon. And that's where Iranian-backed Hezbollah terrorists fired missiles at Israeli army posts, killing 1 civilian. The IDF retaliated and declared a security zone near the Lebanese border off limits to civilians. In this country, many are waiting for word to hear if their loved ones are still okay. Here's CTV's Tony Grace on what they're worried about and what they long to hear.
Yeah, there he is.
With every passing hour, Ahmed Jadallah grows more concerned about family and friends in Gaza.
Whether they will be safe and how safe they're going to be, and whether they will be allowed to leave or not.
His close friend, Medhat Haddad, is one of many Canadians trying to escape.
He told me that he received a call from the Canadian Embassy, and he was told to be ready. They will try to help him to leave.
But phone calls to get updates on his plans soon became sporadic texts, and today, not even a ringtone.
Unfortunately, he's not reachable.
Electricity and network outages are also hampering the government's ability to reach the 300 Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and family members desperate to leave.
It's been difficult to get in touch with people. That said, we gave as much information as we could, and people recognize that moving south is the best option right now.
South toward the Rafah border crossing into Egypt, where leaving may finally be possible for some.
This is why we're informing people that when there is a window ready, it could be a very short window.
He does not know what's going to happen in the next minute.
An uncertain timeline that's adding to the anxiety of loved ones waiting for word.
If this continues for another couple of days, we're going to have a massive disaster, made by the human beings.
Global Affairs says the Canadian Embassy in Egypt has been in touch with Egyptian officials this weekend to make sure that once Canadians can cross at Rafah, they will be transported on to Cairo to plan their journeys home. Sandy.
Tony, thank you for this. Now, the U.S. is expanding its military presence near Israel with a second aircraft carrier in the region. Joining us, retired U.S. four-star General Philip Breedlove, the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, Europe. General, what does this increased show of force by the Americans tell you?
Well, I think it's more important to say what it tells the world, and that is that U.S. leadership is paying attention and that U.S. leadership is clear that it doesn't want other actors to enter into this fight or a broadening of the larger conflict.
And by other actors, you're talking primarily about Iran.
Iran, Hezbollah, yes.
Okay. The other question I have for you, sir, is that today we heard that the White House is not ruling out sending troops to rescue Americans. From past experience, what might that look like?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that Israel has a magnificent force for doing this. And so that might be our first option. We had said there would be no boots on the ground. And so this is a change in policy, and I think a welcome change in policy that we might use our forces if required. And we do have several magnificent forces, SEAL Team 6, Delta, and others, that this is a mission that they train for, and they're very good at it. So we would have the option in our Tier 1 Special Operations Forces.
Okay, thank you for your insight, General. In other news, a powerful earthquake jolted Afghanistan today, the third major tremor in a week. At least 2 people died and more than 100 were injured after the 6.3 magnitude quake struck in the west. Last week's tremor claimed thousands of lives and flattened entire villages. Well, those who are worried that Canada's healthcare system is flatlining have reason to be concerned. Nurses are leaving hospitals in droves, and not just because of burnout, but to work at higher-paying private agencies. CTV's medical correspondent Avis Favre reports on the implications of an industry slowly being privatized.
Premier Health America is a Quebec-based company that rents out nurses to understaffed and desperate hospitals.
To get a Canadian footprint, a coast-to-coast footprint. That's really what we're planning to do in the next 3 years or so.
It's one of a growing number of private nursing agencies, many for profit, some on the TSX. One company, Staffy, promises to find healthcare workers instantly and is noted for its rapid revenue growth. But the trend worries experts who say nursing care is being slowly privatized at an enormous cost.
Hospitals are paying for these with taxpayers' money. That's very concerning, that my money as a taxpayer is going towards a profit for some other agency.
One nurse who asked not to be identified says she gets $44 an hour working directly for a hospital and nearly $100 an hour plus travel expenses working the same hospital job via an agency, and she can pick her shifts.
Many of us have gotten to, if you can't beat them, join them. We might as well make money doing travel nursing, but acknowledging that it's a completely broken system.
Hospitals, meanwhile, struggle to keep staff nurses who are asked to work long shifts and whose pay is governed by provincial contracts. Toronto's University Health Network tells CTV News before the pandemic, it paid less than $1 million a year to nursing agencies. Now it's jumped to nearly $11 million in 2022.
I described it as a Wild West before. There are not effective regulations.
Across the country, meanwhile, staff nurses have been fighting for better pay and more flexible working hours, but are being largely ignored by the provinces that manage their contracts.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
Kim Bauer is a veteran emergency nurse who says she's often the only staff nurse surrounded by agency nurses who are often unacquainted with the ER system.
I have to rely on people who don't know where things are to get what I need. It's frustrating for the doctors, it's frustrating for the nurses, and it's reflected on the care of the patient.
But their use may continue to grow, with at least 8 Ontario hospitals signing 5-year-long contracts with these agencies to secure staff in any way they can. Quebec spent almost $1 billion last year on agency nurses and now wants to ban their use, enticing nurses back to hospital care with better hours and better pay. Avis Favreau, CTV News, Toronto.
And Avis has more on the move to private agencies. Just check out our website, ctvnews.ca. Coming up, ready to campaign on pharmacare.
We're organizing to win.
An ultimatum over a deal with the Liberals. Plus, saying goodbye to a sitcom star. The federal NDP has wrapped up a 3-day policy convention in Hamilton, a key focus reducing the cost of prescription drugs. New Democrats say if the Liberals won't provide Canadians with pharmacare, they will trigger an election and make affordable drugs a ballot box issue. CTV's Kevin Gallagher joins us from the Hamilton Convention Centre with more. Kevin.
Sandy, delegates here want the NDP poised to rip up the deal, keeping the Liberals in power if their demands are watered down.
How about that, right?
Ontario NDP leader Merritt Stiles is the third provincial party leader to speak to delegates this weekend, as the NDP hopes recent provincial success will transfer over to the next federal race.
We're coming together to demand more, to demand better. We're organizing to win. And
though there are signs of impatience with the agreement propping up the Liberals.
The NDP make it conditional upon withdrawing from the confidence supply agreement unless the Liberals move forward with this anti-scab legislation in the next 3 months. Thank you.
The deal requires legislation is passed this year to establish national pharmaceutical coverage. It's a commitment some fear the government could abandon.
They are weaseling out. Now, we have been crystal clear. We have put on the record that nothing less than public pharmacare delivered through our single payer system will do for us. Nothing less.
Delegates voted unanimously to end the agreement if those demands aren't met. This puts pressure on NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, who received 81% support to remain.
What I've received is a strong mandate, but also a clear message that New Democrats want us to do more.
Singh's support is the lowest for any NDP leader since Tal Mulcair was ousted at the convention in 2016.
It's very difficult for Mr. Singh to see those numbers going down, but part of it is the frustration of some of the membership base with the deal that he struck with Trudeau.
Political analysts don't think this convention's leadership review presents an immediate threat to Singh, but that could change if there isn't a significant increase next election to the NDP's 25 federal seats. Sandy?
Kevin, thank you. As we go to break, a big boost for Canadian tennis star Leylah Fernandez. Fernandez captured the crown at the Hong Kong Open in 3 thrilling sets.
We had a very, very hard past couple of years, and my family, my parents, my coach, my performance coaches have stayed by my side.
It's her first title in 19 months. Still ahead, remembering Suzanne Somers.
You see, I did something I shouldn't to someone who turned out to be what he wasn't because I thought he did something that he didn't.
The sitcom star who reinvented herself many times over. Some sad news from the world of entertainment. Actress Suzanne Somers died today at her home in California, 1 day shy of her 77th birthday.
Well, this is typical getting a girl pregnant. Only a man would do a thing like that.
Somers was best known for her role as the ditzy and effervescent Chrissy Snow on the television mega hit Three's Company. But she was fired at the height of the show's success for demanding to get paid as much as her male co-stars.
I went from being the #1 actress on television in those desired demographics to now I couldn't get an interview.
Somers used the break to pursue new avenues, including a Las Vegas act, writing books, and hosting a talk show. In the 90s, she became pitch person for a popular fitness gadget.
I used to do aerobics till I dropped. Then I found Thigh Master.
Somers battled breast cancer on and off for 23 years. She'll be laid to rest at a private family burial later this week. Longtime husband Canadian Alan Hamill was by her side. And after the break, teaching by example.
I've always kind of had people looking, staring, walk by and be like, oh my gosh, right?
A teenager stares down fear to inspire others. We leave you tonight with the story of a teenager who taught himself to create social media videos to overcome his fear of appearing on camera. Here's CTV's Adam Sawatsky.
Caden Tanaik is on an unexpected journey that began when his parents started questioning the quantity of his screen time.
And my dad said, instead of watching it all the time, learn how to make something like that.
Although he once posed with a camera, Caden often appeared on camera, enduring more than a dozen surgeries connected to a condition commonly known as dwarfism, and felt daunted with being the center of attention.
I've always kind of had people looking, staring, walk by and be like, oh my gosh, right?
But Caden decided to face his fear, researched what to do, and eventually shot, edited, and starred in his first video at 11.
So I loved the creative aspects, loved the fact that I could control what other people see.
What's up, everybody? Caden Tanaik here, back.
So Caden started using his newfound creative skills to both entertain and educate.
This is my back. This is an average back.
But Caden soon realized his productivity came with a price.
I used to walk into a classroom and everybody would say, what's up, everybody? Caden Tanaik here, right? And it's not like they were making fun of me, but, you know, it bugged me a little bit.
So Caden stopped making videos before enduring spinal surgery during the pandemic, which left him immunocompromised and unable to attend high school for more than 2 years.
It was tough. I wasn't able to see my friends, wasn't really able to go out.
But Caden realized he was still able to make videos and was inspired to pursue it professionally.
So I just showcased kind of what it's like to live at 3.5 feet tall with my condition in a world built for average height people.
And this is what I have to do.
Now, Caden's content on social media, which ranges from how he modifies kitchens to cook and fabricates lifted Jeeps to drive, has attracted more than 1.2 million followers and inspired more than 250 million video views. And he's using his fame to help stage fundraisers for charities that support his condition. But ultimately, Caden's feeling grateful for the opportunity to share the extraordinary perspective of an ordinary 18-year-old.
Everybody's unique in their own way, but at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Saanich.
And that's our newscast for this Sunday. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Omar is here Monday. Have a good night. I'll see you soon.